This is Grand Finals for Injustice at EVO 2013, the biggest fighting game tournament in the world, and you hear this.
The crowd booing KDZ right now.
Players and spectators are booing. Why? Because Superman was just that good, and players were tired of seeing him win. Now eventually he would be replaced by the much more broken DLC characters, but for a good while Superman reigned supreme. So today, let's discuss what made Superman the biggest villain in Injustice. So to start things off, let's talk about his keep away, because that's the main reason a lot of people booed this character, though honestly keep away was only one good thing about this character, but it was the easiest thing to recognize that was broken about him. So to begin, let's talk about heat vision. So this move hits mid, so right away you cannot duck this thing, you have to walk forward and block constantly, otherwise you will get hit. And as you can see, this move knocks down by default. There's no need to actually meter burn if you want to knock the opponent on their butt, but if you wanted to spin the bar, they were now full screen. And on top of that, you got more damage, so already a pretty strong move. However, this move had so many more things going for it. It could also be done in the air. So that meant you had a mid attack that tracked the ground, so the opponent had to deal with this thing, and also Superman had an air dash, so he could jump backwards, dash backwards, and then do this move, and as you can see, it covers pretty much the entire screen. The only way you could ever avoid this move is if you were close enough to dash under Superman, otherwise it was going to hit you. And once again, if Superman hit you and then spent the bar, you were now full screen. And did you notice the meter burn actually hits overhead? So this caught a lot of players off guard, especially me because I played other 2D fighting games. And to my knowledge, there were no other 2D fighting games where projectiles were overheads. That's pretty much a NetherRealm thing. And as a result, the meter burn would catch players blocking low all the time and then put them at full screen once again. And I almost forgot to mention the meter burn version on the ground is actually plus 11, so if you ever did this move by mistake, you could just spin the bar to keep yourself safe on block. And even in the air, this move was really good on block. It was technically minus 11, but look at all the pushback. Nobody's going to punish you if you space it correctly. Or in summary, this move was super cheap. You could run away and then use it, and also spin the bar just to make sure you were safe every single time. And we're still not done, because this move could also be done after rising grab. Simply do the input, and now you heat vision the opponent. And yes, you could still meter burn here as well, which just put the opponent even further away and did some decent damage, which meant you could do any combo you wanted and then end with rising grab, spin the bar, and then put them at full screen every time. So if you never played Injustice, just imagine a keep away character who puts you at full screen again every time they touch you. But that's not it for Superman's keep away potential. He also had heat zap. So he had two different ways to play keep away, and this move, as you can see, does a ton of damage. Look at that, 12% for a single projectile, and look at all the knockback. All you had to do was land this move twice and the opponent's at full screen. And on top of that, this move is also plus 20 on block. Now, is there a gap there? Yes, you could interrupt Superman in theory, but he had so many different ways to punish you for doing that most players didn't even go for it. So just keep that in mind. This tool was great for keep away and zoning, but was also plus 20 on block when used up close. But if you ask me, the craziest thing about this move is the block damage and how fast you can do it. So look at the chip damage and look how fast I'm doing this move. Look at that life bar just drain. And you can jump this thing, but look how fast it is. If your character had a weak jump arc, or if Superman delayed it, he would just knock you out of the sky anyway. Now thankfully this move does hit high, so in theory you could just walk forward and duck under it, but that's why Superman had heat vision, and a good player would just alternate between the two. If the opponent liked to walk forward and duck, they would do heat vision and then maybe amplify to catch them ducking, which puts them at full screen, and if the opponent jumped, they would just do heat zap, or they would jump and do heat vision, because that also caught players jumping a lot. So even though Superman only had two different special moves for keep away, they were both really good and more than strong enough to get the job done. And what's even crazier, you could combo after heat vision in the corner, which a lot of players did. Basically, if Superman touched you at all whatsoever, he would just combo into his frost breath, then do the heat vision, and then keep the combo going from there. And as you can see, that was 40% for just one bar, and as far as Superman combos go, that was a baby combo. And we're gonna talk more about Superman's trait later on, but for now, just keep in mind it makes all of his keep away better. So now his heat vision does 19%. Before, it only did 15%, and his heat zap normally only does 12, but now under character power, it does 16% for a single hit, and look at all that block damage too. So if Superman had trait activated and then did heat vision, look at all the damage you were taking on block. This is absolutely ridiculous. So not only did Superman have god tier zoning, but his trait just gave him more damage in general. So as we just covered, Superman was very strong from a distance, but up close he was just as infuriating, and all he had to do was Solitude Strikes followed by Super Breath, and that's because Super Breath was plus on block, and Solitude Strikes had really good range. So Superman could force you to block the first super breath and then just do the whole thing over again, and if you pressed any buttons, you would get hit for a full combo. So put simply, whenever you fought any Superman online, they would just do this over and over again because they knew how good it was and they knew you couldn't press any buttons. And even more annoying, Superman had a mix-up here. If he canceled in the trait, he could just keep attacking you, and if you pressed any buttons, you were going to get counter hit for a full combo. And even if you blocked because you didn't want to get counter hits, Superman could just cancel into his throw instead, and that was also a very dirty mix-up. And look at that damage, 15%, but that's very high in this game. It may not seem damaging if you play Mortal Kombat 11 where throws are busted, but in this game a throw only did around 11%, but Superman got 15 thanks to his trait. And keep in mind, you can't neutral duck throws in this game. I have Doomsday set to duck. He's not trying to block or anything, and I can still throw him, so that option to duck a throw was not even possible. You had to break it on reaction. And the mix-ups didn't stop there. Superman could cancel his trait into an overhead, which would catch you ducking, and his overhead, especially in the corner, led to 50% damage. And then if the opponent was used to blocking that, you could just mix things up with a low attack because Superman also had a low combo starter as well. Now it wasn't technically a 50-50 because there was a 10 frame difference between both attacks, but trust me, online, especially in this game which didn't have a good netcode, that mix-up was tough to block. And of course we have to talk about Superman's forward dash because this gave him cross-ups for days and it was very tough to predict. He could even jump over you and then cross back over you and hit you in those situations too. So Superman's ability to air dash gave him cross-ups over and over again, and it was very tough to block. However, Superman was also deadly from around here as well. He had two different moves that were great for countering zoning. He had the flying low, which was a very advancing low attack which would avoid highs and in fact a lot of projectiles as well. And then from the air, Superman had his flying ground smash which hit overhead. So for some players this was pretty sneaky. You do a jumping attack into an overhead and now it's a double overhead, or you do a jumping attack into his low and now it's an overhead low. Once again, in a bad connection, this was tough to deal with. But even just for closing the gap, the ground smash was great. You jump forward, dash forward, and then ground smash and avoid a lot of projectiles and keep away. And just for fun, you could also amplify it. And it looked awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it looked really cool. The damage was pretty much never worth it unless it won the match, but it was still a cool looking move regardless. And then in the corner, this move was just stupid because Superman would knock down the opponent and then go for this move, and depending on how he spaced it, it was a cross up. However, it doesn't have to be a cross up, that's the dirty part. If I delay it, it lands in the front instead, and it's not a cross up. And this was very tough to block even at high level. This would catch pros all the time because all Superman had to do was delay his ground smash a little bit and it would cross up or not. Put simply, once Superman had you cornered, there were all kinds of shenanigans, and all he had to do was touch you and then he was guaranteed 40%, and if he had trait, he was getting around 55%. And you know what, let's finally talk about Superman's trait. So by default, it just gave more damage in general. So this string, normally it only does about 8%, but if I pop trait, suddenly it's doing 10%. So already a pretty good increase in damage, so just imagine what a combo did as a result. But the damage buff isn't what made this move scary. What made it scary is Superman could cancel into it whenever he wanted to and then just keep the combo going anyway. And the combos always did decent damage. You were pretty much always guaranteed 35% for one bar, or even more, sometimes around 40 if you knew what you were doing. And as mentioned earlier, this move recovered so fast on block that he could just keep his offense going and there was no gap, or to be sneaky, he would cancel into it and go for a throw. And this made Superman very sneaky because you never knew when he was going for a throw or when he would keep his offense going. And as we discussed earlier, this buff also made his keep away better as well because now every single projectile did that much more damage on block and hit. However, if Superman touched you in the corner, he could pop trait and easily get 50% in a lot of situations. Here's just one example off of a forward 3, which keep in mind Superman could armor to beat any wake up options you had. And here's one more combo after his cross up in the corner, which is extra dirty but still leads to over 50% damage. And before Superman got nerfed, these combos did at least 55% if not 60. But none of that is the craziest part. In case you didn't play this game, be ready because your mind is about to get blown. The damage buff and the cancels and the combos are not what made this move powerful. No, what made this move powerful was its ability to break armor. So for example, let's take control of Doomsday real quick and let's tell him to just pop his trait. And that's it. So normally when Doomsday has trait activated, he can't be launched whatsoever. No matter what you do, you can't launch him. However, Superman easily could. All he had to do was pop trait and he beats everyone's armor, and multiple characters had traits that gave them armor, but Superman just said no to every single one of them on top of great combos and a buff to his damage. So ironically enough, Superman was actually a counter to Doomsday, whereas in the comics I think we all know it's the exact opposite. And this trait broke every armor, not just armored traits. So universal forward 3s and back 3s that could also be armored, this trait broke those as well. Any sort of armor whatsoever, this move destroyed. So what this meant was when Superman had trait activated, you couldn't use any armored options to escape his offense. You just had to block or use something invincible because nothing armored would work. So yeah, this trait is ridiculously strong, which is funny because some traits in this game felt almost useless, but Superman's was just ridiculously good. And honestly, that's about it for Superman. I mean, sure, he had more things going for him, like a bunch of ways to extend combos. He had that low scoop right there, or he had the frost breath. In the corner, he had the heat zap, so he had a bunch of ways to extend combos, which gave him really good damage. But overall, that's pretty much everything that made Superman the biggest villain in Injustice, and it's why you saw players actually booing him in Grand Finals. The reality is nobody wanted to see this character win anymore. He was already dominating tournaments, and people were tired of seeing him. He was just too good. But please let me know in the comments which character you hated fighting the most in Injustice. And then while you're down there, please leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by suplexing that subscribe button? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.